Katie Morrison walked through the long metal hallway of the Galaxy Council Station. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the cold floor. The walls around her were covered with strange symbols and lights that blinked in colors she had never seen before. The air smelled like burning metal and something sweet that made her nose wrinkle. She had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach this place. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It floated in space near a red star that the aliens called Proxima Centauri. From her small window on the transport ship, Katie had seen the station growing larger and larger until it filled the entire view. Now she was inside it, walking toward the most important meeting in human history. 2 alien guards walked beside her. They were tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms each. Their eyes were black and round like marbles. They did not speak to her or look at her. They just walked and made soft breathing sounds that reminded Katie of wind through leaves. The hallway ended at a massive door that was at least 20 feet tall. The door was made of some kind of dark stone that seemed to glow from inside. Strange writing covered its surface in gold letters. Katie could not read the words, but they made her feel small and unimportant. One of the guards touched a panel next to the door. The door made a deep humming sound and slowly opened. Katie took a deep breath and walked inside. The council chamber was the largest room Katie had ever seen. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness above. 12 huge chairs were arranged in a circle around the center of the room. Each chair was different, built for a different type of alien. Some were made of crystal, others of metal or wood or materials Katie could not identify. In each chair sat a member of the Galaxy Council. Katie had studied pictures of them, but seeing them in person was different. They were bigger and stranger than she had imagined. Some had scales, others had fur or feathers. One looked like it was made entirely of blue crystal. Another was covered in tentacles that moved like snakes. In the center of the circle was a small chair, clearly meant for Katie. It looked tiny, compared to the alien chairs around it. Katie walked to the chair and sat down. She felt like a child sitting at a table of adults. Council Prime Zexthor rose from his crystal chair. He was 12 feet tall and his body was made of what looked like purple diamonds. When he moved, his body made soft chiming sounds like wind chimes. His voice was deep and echoed through the chamber. "Human Representative Katie Morrison," he said, "you have come far to hear our words. We welcome you to this place of wisdom and power." Katie nodded but did not speak. She had been told to listen first and speak only when asked direct questions. Zexthor gestured with one of his crystal arms toward the other council members. "We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 of your years. In that time, we have brought peace and order to millions of worlds. We have ended wars, stopped suffering, and guided younger species toward wisdom." Another council member stood up. This one looked like a giant insect with green skin and 6 legs. Its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Your species is young and foolish," it said. "You have been in space for less than 100 years, yet you act as if you own the stars. You build colonies without asking permission. You make weapons that threaten peaceful worlds. You refuse to learn from those who are older and wiser." A third alien joined the conversation. This one was covered in thick black fur and had 3 heads. All 3 heads spoke at the same time, making a sound like a crowd of people talking. "We have watched your species spread across the galaxy like a disease. You take what you want and destroy what you do not need. You are dangerous to yourselves and to others." Katie felt her anger rising, but she kept her face calm. These aliens were describing humans as if they were monsters, but Katie knew better. Humans had made mistakes, but they had also done good things. They had brought medicine to sick worlds, helped rebuild planets damaged by wars, and shared their technology with species that needed it. Zexthor raised his hand and the other aliens became quiet. "However," he said, "we are not without mercy. We understand that your species is young and can still learn. That is why we have brought you here today. We offer you a choice." The crystal being moved to the center of the circle, towering over Katie. "Your species will surrender all weapons that can destroy planets or stars. You will close your military bases and send your warships to us. You will move all humans to worlds that we will choose for you. These worlds will be safe and comfortable, with everything your people need to live good lives." Another alien, this one covered in silver scales, added its voice. "In return, we will protect your species from those who might wish to harm you. We will teach you the right way to live in peace. Your children will grow up in a galaxy without war or fear." The insect-like alien made clicking sounds with its mouth. "This is more generous than any offer we have ever made to a young species." Most races must earn our protection through centuries of service. We offer it to you freely because we see potential in your kind. Katie felt her heart beating faster. The aliens were offering to turn humanity into pets. They wanted to put humans in cages made of entire planets and call it protection. They spoke as if they were being kind, but Katie could hear the threat behind their words. Zexathor leaned down toward Katie, his crystal face reflecting the lights of the chamber. You have 7 of your days to consider our offer. Return to your homeworld and speak to your leaders. Tell them what we have said. When you return, you will give us your answer. The alien with 3 heads spoke again. Choose wisely, young human. This offer will not be made twice. If you refuse our protection, you will face the consequences of your choice. Katie stood up slowly. She looked around the circle at each of the 12 aliens. They all stared back at her with expressions that might have been kindness or might have been hunger. She could not tell the difference. I do not need 7 days, Katie said quietly. The chamber became completely silent. Even the soft humming sounds from the station's machines seemed to stop. Zexathor tilted his crystal head. You wish more time to consider? We can give you 30 days if needed. Katie shook her head. No, she said, her voice growing stronger. I do not need more time because the answer will not change. The aliens began to murmur among themselves in languages that sounded like nothing Katie had ever heard. The answer is no, Katie said clearly. Humanity rejects your offer. The sound that came from the aliens was like nothing Katie had ever heard. It was part gasp, part roar, part screech of metal. Several of them stood up from their chairs. The insect alien's mouth opened and closed rapidly. The furry alien's 3 heads turned to look at each other in shock. Zexathor's crystal body began to glow brighter. You do not understand what you are saying, he said. No species has ever refused our protection. It is not possible. Katie picked up her small bag and walked toward the door. Then I guess we are the first, she said without looking back. Behind her, the aliens began talking all at once in loud voices. She heard the word impossible in several different languages. She heard other words that she was glad she could not understand. The guards escorted her back through the hallway, but now they kept looking at her with their black marble eyes. Katie could feel their confusion and fear. She had done something that had never been done before. As she boarded her transport ship for the journey back to Earth, Katie looked out the window at the massive alien station. In a few hours she would be gone and the aliens would be left to figure out what to do with a species that refused to be caged. Katie smiled as the ship pulled away from the station. The real conversation was just beginning. Admiral Jake Carter sat in the underground war room beneath the mountains of Colorado. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, ship locations, and communication feeds from across human space. Red lights blinked on dozens of control panels while officers moved quietly between workstations. The air smelled of coffee and the ozone from electronic equipment. 3 days had passed since Katie Morrison returned from the Galaxy Council station. Jake had read her report 7 times, but the words still made his blood run cold. The aliens wanted to turn humanity into zoo animals, locked away on worlds of their choosing while calling it protection. General Lisa Rodriguez walked into the room carrying a thick folder of papers. Her boots clicked on the metal floor as she approached Jake's desk. Behind her came Admiral Peter Quinn, his face showing the worry they all felt. The 3 of them had worked together for 15 years, fighting pirates and exploring new worlds. Now they faced something bigger than any of them had imagined. The Council's response came in an hour ago, Lisa said, setting the folder on Jake's desk. Every colony world has reported the same thing. Alien ships are moving toward our borders. Long-range sensors show at least 500 vessels heading our way. Jake opened the folder and looked at the pictures inside. The alien ships were massive, some longer than Earth's biggest cities. They moved in perfect formations like schools of fish, their hulls gleaming silver and gold in the light of distant stars. Each ship bristled with weapons that could destroy entire moons. Peter Quinn pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. Our intelligence people have been working around the clock, he said. The aliens have been preparing for this for months. They expected us to refuse their offer. Jake looked up from the pictures. What do you mean? Think about it, Peter continued. They gave us 7 days to decide, but Katie said no immediately. They could have accepted that and let her leave. Instead, they let her go home to report to us. They want us to see those ships coming. They want us to be afraid. Lisa nodded and pointed to one of the star maps on the wall. Our spies on neutral worlds report that alien commanders are telling their crews, this will be over in days. They think we will surrender as soon as we see how outnumbered we are. Jake stood up and walked to the large screen that showed the positions of all human ships. 200 vessels were scattered across 47 colony worlds. Each ship carried a crew of 300 people. Against the alien fleet, they looked like toys. What about our weapons? Jake asked. Lisa smiled for the first time in days. That is where things get interesting, she said. Our engineers have been busy since we first made contact with alien technology 3 years ago. We have been building weapons they have never seen. She pressed a button on her tablet, and the main screen changed to show technical drawings of human ships. Every vessel in our fleet has been upgraded with quantum torpedoes. These weapons can pass through energy shields and hit the hull directly. The aliens have never faced anything like them. Peter added his own information. Our ships are also smaller and faster than theirs. While they have been building bigger and bigger vessels, we focused on speed and agility. Our ships can make precision jumps through hyperspace that let us appear anywhere we want in a battle. Jake studied the technical specifications on the screen. Human ships were indeed smaller than alien vessels, but they were also newer. Every system had been designed with lessons learned from captured alien technology. Where alien ships relied on brute force, human ships used clever engineering. There is something else, Lisa said quietly. Our psychologists have been studying alien behavior patterns. These creatures have been the dominant force in the galaxy for thousands of years. They have never faced real resistance from a younger species. They expect us to fight like they do, with big ships in formation. But we will not fight like that, Peter said. We will hit them fast and hard, then disappear before they can respond. We will make them afraid. Jake walked back to his desk and sat down. Show me the defense plans. Lisa opened another folder and spread papers across the desk. We cannot defend every world at once, she said. Instead, we will let them capture some of the smaller colonies while we prepare our real response. They will think they are winning while we get ready to hit them where it hurts. The plan was bold and dangerous. Human forces would retreat from 15 of their smaller colonies, making the aliens think their invasion was succeeding. Meanwhile, the main human fleet would gather at 3 strategic locations. When the aliens moved deeper into human space, they would find themselves surrounded. What about the colonies we abandoned? Jake asked. We cannot just leave those people. We already started evacuating them, Peter said. Every civilian will be moved to safer worlds before the aliens arrive. They will capture empty planets. Jake looked at the timeline on the wall. The alien fleets would reach the first human colonies in 10 days. The evacuations would be complete in 8 days if everything went according to plan. That left only 2 days to get human warships into position. Are our captains ready for this? Jake asked. Lisa nodded firmly. I have spoken to all of them personally. They understand what we are facing. More importantly, they understand what we are fighting for. These aliens want to put humanity in cages. Our people will not let that happen. A communication officer across the room called out to them. Admiral Carter, we have an incoming message from Captain Tony Blake on the UHS Freedom. Jake pressed a button on his desk and Tony's voice filled the room. Admiral, my ship is in position at New Boston Colony. The evacuation is ahead of schedule. We should have all civilians out of here in 2 days. Good work, Captain, Jake replied. What about the alien scouts? We have detected 3 of their ships at the edge of our sensor range, Tony said. They are watching us, but not approaching. I think they are waiting for their main fleet to arrive. Jake looked at Lisa and Peter. This was it. The aliens were already moving their pieces into position. Soon the real war would begin. Captain Blake, you have permission to engage any alien vessel that enters your system, Jake said. But remember the plan. Hit them hard and get out fast. Understood, Admiral. Freedom out. Jake turned back to his senior officers. Send the same orders to all our ships. Any alien vessel that threatens a human world is to be destroyed. No warnings, no surrender demands. We start this war by showing them we are not afraid. Over the next 2 hours, similar conversations took place with captains across human space. Each commander received their orders and confirmed their understanding. The human fleet was ready. As the evening came, Jake stood alone in the war room looking at the star maps. Red dots showed alien ships moving closer to human space. Blue dots showed human ships moving into their ambush positions. In a few days, those dots would come together. and the galaxy would see something it had never seen before. Young species saying no to the old powers and making it stick. Jake touched a button on his desk and spoke into his communicator. This is Admiral Carter to all human forces. In 72 hours, we will face the largest alien fleet ever assembled. They expect us to surrender when we see their numbers. They expect us to beg for mercy and accept their cages. He paused and looked around the room at his officers. They are about to learn that humanity does not surrender. They are about to learn that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds. All ships prepare for combat operations. This is Admiral Carter out. The war room fell silent except for the humming of computers and the soft breathing of people who knew they were about to change the galaxy forever. Captain Tony Blake stood on the bridge of the UHS Freedom, watching the alien fleet approach New Boston Colony through the main viewing screen. 50 massive ships moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting the light from the system's orange sun. Each alien vessel was 3 times larger than Tony's ship, bristling with weapons and armor that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Tony's crew worked quietly at their stations around him. Lieutenant Amy Brooks monitored the sensor readings while Commander Rick Davis prepared the weapon systems. Chief Engineer Linda Hayes made final adjustments to the ship's new quantum torpedo systems. Everyone knew this would be the first real test of human technology against alien power. Enemy fleet will reach weapons range in 15 minutes, Amy reported from her station. I count 50 ships in Standard Council attack formation. Tony nodded and pressed a button on his captain's chair. This is Captain Blake to all human ships in the new Boston system. We have 2 other vessels with us today, the UHS Liberty and the UHS Victory. Remember your training and trust your equipment. We are about to show these aliens what humans can do. The alien fleet slowed as it approached the planet. Through his communications system, Tony could hear the voice of Admiral Velkine, the alien commander. The voice was deep and rough, like gravel being poured into a metal bucket. Human vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately, the alien said. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Your resistance ends now. Tony looked around at his crew. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. They all knew they were outnumbered, but they also knew they had advantages the aliens did not expect. Admiral Velkine, Tony replied into his communicator. This is Captain Tony Blake of the United Human Fleet. I have a message for you from all of humanity. Speak your surrender terms. Human, the alien commander said. Tony smiled and looked at his weapons officer. Go to hell. Rick Davis pressed the firing button and 3 quantum torpedoes shot out from the Freedom toward the alien flagship. At the same time, the Liberty and Victory fired their own weapons. 9 torpedoes raced through space toward the alien fleet. The aliens activated their energy shields, the same technology that had protected their ships for thousands of years. Blue energy surrounded each vessel like a glowing bubble. Tony watched as the quantum torpedoes approached the shields and passed right through them as if they were not there. The first torpedo hit Admiral Velkine's ship directly in the center. The explosion tore a hole through the alien hull large enough to fly a small ship through. The second and third torpedoes struck the ship's engine section, and the massive vessel began to spin out of control. Direct hits on the flagship, Amy called out. The other torpedoes are finding their targets too. Tony watched as 3 more alien ships took damage from the human weapons. One ship lost its main gun, another began leaking atmosphere into space, and a third lost power completely and drifted helplessly. The alien fleet fell into chaos. Ships that had moved in perfect formation suddenly scattered in all directions. Some tried to return fire, but their weapons could not lock onto the smaller human ships. Others attempted to ram the human vessels, but Tony and his fellow captains were ready for that. Execute evasive pattern alpha, Tony ordered. Take us into the asteroid field. The Freedom accelerated toward a belt of rocky debris that orbited New Boston's sun. The ship's engines pushed it faster than any alien vessel could match. Behind them, the Liberty and Victory followed the same path, weaving between asteroids the size of buildings. Several alien ships tried to follow, but their massive size worked against them. 2 ships crashed into asteroids and exploded in brilliant flashes of light. A third got stuck between 2 large rocks and became an easy target for human torpedoes. Alien commander is trying to re-establish formation, Rick reported, but half his ships are too damaged to respond properly. Tony studied the tactical display on his screen. The alien fleet was spread across the entire system, with damaged ships trying to rejoin their formation, while healthy ships searched for the human vessels. It was exactly the situation Tony had hoped for. "All ships execute attack pattern beta," Tony commanded. "Hit them while they are scattered." The 3 human ships split up and approached the alien fleet from different directions. The Freedom used its advanced engines to make a short hyperspace jump, appearing directly behind a group of alien cruisers. Before the aliens could react, Tony's ship fired 6 torpedoes into their rear sections. The Liberty attacked from above, diving down on 2 alien ships that were trying to rescue the crew of a damaged vessel. The Victory came from below, using the planet's gravity to increase its speed before launching its own torpedo attack. Within minutes, 12 alien ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels tried to form a defensive circle, but they were too late. The human ships were already inside their formation, attacking from point-blank range. Admiral Velkine's voice crackled over the communication system, but now it sounded different. The confidence was gone, replaced by something Tony had never heard in an alien voice before. Fear. "Impossible," the alien commander said. "Our shields should stop your weapons. Our formation should protect us." "How are you doing this?" Tony almost felt sorry for the alien. For thousands of years, the Galaxy Council had faced only species that fought like they did, with big ships and ancient tactics. They had never encountered an enemy that refused to play by their rules. "We are humans," Tony replied. "We do not follow your rules." The battle continued for another hour. Human ships darted in and out of the alien formation like angry wasps, striking hard and fast before disappearing again. The aliens tried everything they knew, but nothing worked against human tactics. When the fighting ended, only 15 alien ships remained functional. The rest were either destroyed or drifting powerless in space. Not a single human ship had been lost. Admiral Velkane's flagship was still alive but badly damaged. The alien commander sent one final message before ordering his surviving ships to retreat. "This is not over, humans," he said. "The Council will send more ships. We will bring 1,000 vessels next time." Tony watched the alien ships limp away toward hyperspace. "We will be waiting," he replied. As the alien fleet disappeared, Tony's crew began cheering. They had done something no one thought possible. They had defeated a Council fleet in open battle, but Tony knew this was only the beginning. Word of this victory would spread across the galaxy within days. Some species would be inspired by humanity's success. Others would be terrified of what it meant for the old order. Most importantly, the Galaxy Council would realize they were facing something they had never encountered before. A species that not only refused to surrender, but had the power to back up their defiance. Tony looked at the debris field where alien ships had been destroyed. Each piece of wreckage was a message to the galaxy that the age of Council dominance was ending. The age of human freedom had begun. Admiral Sandra Hayes stood in the command center of the UHS destroyer, watching the tactical display that showed 30 human ships approaching the massive alien fortress of Kepler Station. 6 months had passed since the first victory at New Boston Colony, and the war had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Human forces had won battle after battle, but Kepler Station represented something different. The station was the Galaxy Council's primary military base, a fortress the size of a small moon that had never been successfully attacked in 3,000 years. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets, and its shields had withstood attacks from the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. The aliens believed it was impossible to capture. Sandra knew better. She had spent weeks studying the station's defenses with her tactical team. Captain Nick Thompson and General Carl Johnson had provided intelligence from their own successful raids on alien supply lines. The humans had learned that the station's greatest strength was also its weakness. "All ships report ready for attack," called out Commander Dave Wilson from his position at the communication station. "Captain Blake's group is in position at Vector 7. Captain Rodriguez's ships are holding at Vector 12. Sandra nodded and looked at the holographic image of Kepler Station floating above the tactical table. The structure was shaped like a giant wheel with 6 massive arms extending from the central hub. Each arm contained weapon batteries, shield generators, and docking bays for the alien fleet. At the center was the command section, where the station's commanders coordinated the defense of this entire sector of space. "Status report on enemy forces," Sandra ordered. Lieutenant Kelly Murphy worked at her sensor station, her fingers dancing across the control panels. I count 200 alien ships docked at the station, Admiral. Most appear to be heavy cruisers and battleships. Their shields are at maximum power and all weapon systems are active. Sandra studied the numbers. 200 ships plus the station's own weapons meant the humans were outnumbered 7-1. In traditional space warfare, such odds would be impossible to overcome. But humans had stopped fighting traditional battles months ago. Commander Wilson, signal all group leaders, Sandra said. Execute Attack Plan Omega in 30 seconds. The plan was the most complex operation humans had ever attempted. Instead of attacking the station directly, the fleet would split into 6 groups and attack each arm simultaneously. While the aliens focused on defending their weapon platforms, a 7th group would make a hyperspace jump directly into the station's central hub. Sandra watched the countdown timer on her screen. When it reached 0, the human fleet scattered like seeds in the wind. Captain Blake led his ships toward the station's primary weapons arm, while Captain Rodriguez attacked the communications array. 4 other groups targeted the remaining arms, their small ships moving too fast for the massive alien weapons to track. The space around Kepler station erupted in flashes of light as both sides opened fire. Alien energy beams lanced out toward the human ships, but most missed their targets completely. The human vessels danced between the attacks like leaves in a storm, their pilots using every trick they had learned in 6 months of warfare. Enemy is concentrating fire on our attack groups, reported Lieutenant Murphy. Station shields are holding, but our ships are getting through their defensive perimeter. Sandra smiled grimly. The aliens were doing exactly what she had hoped. All their attention was focused on the 6 visible attack groups while the 7th group prepared for the real assault. General Johnson, your ships are clear for final approach, Sandra said into her communicator. General Carl Johnson commanded 12 of the newest human ships, vessels equipped with experimental hyperspace engines that could make precision jumps over short distances. His ships had been hiding behind Kepler station's moon, invisible to alien sensors. Copy that, Admiral. Carl's voice crackled through the speakers. Beginning final approach now. On Sandra's tactical display, 12 new contacts appeared directly inside Kepler station's shield perimeter. The alien defenders had been so focused on the attacks coming from outside that they had not noticed. The human ships materializing in their central hub, Carl's ships immediately began firing quantum torpedoes at the station's power generators and shield projectors. Without their shields, the massive weapons platforms became vulnerable to attack from the other human groups. The battle turned in minutes. As the station's shields failed, Captain Blake's ships poured through the gaps and began destroying weapon batteries. Captain Rodriguez's group took out the communications center, cutting off the station's ability to coordinate with the alien fleet. Station is requesting assistance from the Council fleet, Commander Wilson reported, but their communications are being jammed by our electronic warfare ships. Sandra watched as alien ships began launching from the station's docking bays. The vessels moved slowly, unprepared for combat and confused by the sudden attack. Human ships that had been waiting for this moment swooped in like hawks, destroying the alien vessels before they could organize a defense. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the station commander, Wilson said. It is coming through on an emergency frequency. Put it through, Sandra ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was high and mechanical, like wind whistling through metal pipes. Sandra recognized it as belonging to a Vextari, one of the Galaxy Council's most feared warrior species. Human Fleet Commander, the alien said. I am Station Commander Kixtal of the Vextari Imperial Guard. You have achieved something unprecedented, but this victory will cost you dearly. The Council will send every ship in the galaxy to destroy your species for this insult. Sandra picked up her communicator and spoke clearly. Commander Kixtal, this is Admiral Sandra Hayes of the United Human Fleet. Your station is defeated and your ships are destroyed. I offer you the chance to surrender and save the lives of your crew. There was a long silence before the alien replied. The Vextari do not surrender to inferior species. We will fight until the last of us dies. That can be arranged, Sandra said coldly. The final assault on Kepler Station lasted 2 more hours. Human boarding parties led by specially trained Marines fought their way through the station's corridors while human ships outside destroyed the last of the alien fleet. The Vexitari fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned by human forces that had learned to fight in the tight spaces of alien ships. When the battle ended, Kepler station was under human control. More than that, the humans had captured intact alien technology, including shield generators, weapon systems, and most importantly, the station's communication array. Sandra stood in the station's former command center, looking out through the massive windows at the wreckage of the alien fleet. Her communication officer approached with a tablet containing damage reports. Casualties? Sandra asked. Light, Admiral, the officer replied. We lost 4 ships and 37 crew members. Alien losses are estimated at over 20,000. Sandra nodded grimly. Every human life lost was a tragedy, but the strategic value of this victory was enormous. The Galaxy Council had lost their primary military base and their reputation for invincibility. More importantly, news of this victory would spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had been enslaved by the Council for centuries would realize that their oppressors could be defeated. Some would rise up in rebellion, forcing the Council to fight wars on dozens of fronts. Sandra activated the station's communication system and sent a message to every human ship in the galaxy. This is Admiral Hayes from Kepler Station. The fortress has fallen and the enemy fleet is destroyed. Phase 2 of our campaign begins immediately. All ships proceed to your assigned targets. Across the galaxy, human fleets began moving toward Council worlds that had seemed untouchable just hours before. The war was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted permanently. The Galaxy Council was no longer the undisputed master of the stars. They were now just another faction in a galaxy at war, and they were losing. President Helen Murphy stood at the window of the Oval Office, watching the alien transport ship land on the White House lawn. 2 years had passed since the war began with humanity's simple refusal to accept alien terms. Now the Galaxy Council was coming to Earth not as conquerors, but as defeated supplicants begging for mercy. The ship was small and white, designed for diplomacy rather than war. It carried no weapons and flew no battle flags. A single alien emerged from the ship's door, walking slowly across the grass toward the building. President Murphy recognized the figure immediately from intelligence reports. Council Prime Zexthor, the crystalline being who had once demanded humanity's surrender. Secretary of Defense Jake Carter entered the office, followed by Ambassador Katie Morrison. Both looked tired but satisfied. The war had been won, but the work of building a new galaxy was just beginning. The alien delegation is ready to meet with you, Madam President, Jake said. Zexthor came alone except for 2 interpreters. No guards, no weapons, no signs of military escort. Katie set a folder on the president's desk. Our intelligence teams have confirmed it. The Galaxy Council has lost control of over half their territory. 37 species have declared independence in the past 6 months. The remaining council members are fighting civil wars on their own worlds. President Murphy picked up the folder and looked through the reports inside. Pictures showed alien worlds in chaos with former slaves rising up against their masters. Ships that once enforced council rule were now flying the flags of free worlds. The galaxy that had seemed so stable and eternal just 2 years ago was falling apart. What about their military forces? The president asked. Jake pulled up a holographic display that showed the current positions of all known fleets. They have fewer than 300 ships left under direct council control. Most of their allies have switched sides or declared neutrality. The Altarian Collective alone has captured 50 former council vessels. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. A Secret Service agent entered and announced that the alien delegation was ready to begin negotiations. President Murphy straightened her suit jacket and walked toward the cabinet room, where the most important meeting in galactic history was about to take place. Zexthor stood in the center of the room, his crystal body reflecting the afternoon sunlight that streamed through the windows. The alien who had once towered over Katie Morrison in his council chamber now seemed smaller and dimmer. His purple crystal had lost its bright glow, and several cracks were visible along his arms. 2 smaller aliens stood behind him, their task to translate between the various languages that would be spoken during this meeting. Neither looked at the humans directly, keeping their eyes focused on the floor. Council Prime Zexthor, President Murphy said formally, "Welcome to Earth." The crystal being made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. One of his translators spoke in heavily accented English. "The Council Prime thanks you for agreeing to this meeting. He wishes to discuss terms for ending the current conflict." President Murphy took her seat at the head of the table, while Jake and Katie sat on either side of her. Please sit down and tell us what the Galaxy Council wishes to discuss. Zexthor's body made grinding sounds as he lowered himself into a specially prepared chair. When he spoke, his voice was much quieter than it had been in the council chamber 2 years ago. "We come to you in humility," the translator said, converting Zexthor's chiming sounds into words. "The Galaxy Council acknowledges that we underestimated your species' capabilities and determination. We wish to end this war before more lives are lost on both sides." Katie leaned forward slightly. "What exactly are you proposing?" Zexthor's body flickered with dim light as he responded. "We offer complete dissolution of the Galaxy Council," came the translation. "All member species will be granted immediate independence. Human forces will be recognized as the legitimate governing authority for all former Council territories." President Murphy exchanged glances with Jake and Katie. This was more than they had expected. The aliens were not just surrendering. They were asking humanity to take over their entire empire. "We appreciate your offer," President Murphy said carefully. "But humanity has no interest in ruling other species. We fought this war for freedom, not conquest." The alien translator struggled to convert the president's words into Zexthor's language. When the crystal being understood what had been said, his body began glowing brighter with what might have been surprise or confusion. "You do not wish to rule the galaxy?" came the translated response. "But you have won the right through conquest. It is the way things have always been done." Jake spoke up from his position at the table. "Perhaps that is why the galaxy has been at war for so long. Someone is always trying to rule someone else." President Murphy opened a folder and pulled out a document that had been prepared by Earth's best legal minds. "We have a different proposal. The galaxy needs a new system of government, one based on cooperation rather than domination." She slid the document across the table to Zexthor. The alien picked it up with his crystal fingers and held it close to his face, reading the human words with difficulty. "This document establishes the Galactic Assembly," President Murphy explained. "Every intelligent species will have a voice in decisions that affect them. No single group will have the power to force others to obey their will." The translation process took several minutes as the alien interpreters worked to explain concepts that had never existed in council society. Words like democracy, representation, and individual rights had no equivalent in their languages. Zexthor set the document down and was quiet for a long time. His crystal body flickered with different colors as he processed this new information. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a tone that sounded almost like wonder. "You offer freedom to species that fought against you," came the translation. "You grant independence to worlds that tried to destroy your colonies. Why would you do this?" Katie answered before the president could speak. "Because freedom is not something you can give to some people and deny to others. Either everyone is free or no one is truly free." The negotiations continued for 3 more hours. Details were worked out for the transition of power, the establishment of the new Galactic Assembly, and the creation of defense agreements between former enemies. When the documents were finally signed, Zexthor's crystal body was glowing brighter than it had when he arrived. "There is one more thing," President Murphy said as the meeting ended. "The first session of the Galactic Assembly will be held here on Earth in 6 months. We hope the Council species will participate as equals among equals." Zexthor stood up from his chair, his movements more fluid than they had been at the start of the meeting. "We will attend," came the translation. "We have much to learn about this thing you call freedom." As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Jake walked over to the window and looked out at the transport ship on the lawn. Hard to believe this all started with Katie saying one word. Katie joined him at the window. Sometimes the most important words are the simplest ones. No changed everything. President Murphy remained at the table, looking at the signed documents that would reshape the galaxy. In 6 months, representatives from 200 species would gather on Earth to build something that had never existed before. A government based on the consent of the governed rather than the fear of the ruled. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Building a free galaxy would be harder than conquering an enslaved one, but it was work worth doing. Outside, Zexthor's ship lifted off from the White House lawn and disappeared into the afternoon sky, carrying news of humanity's gift to the galaxy, the chance for everyone to determine their own destiny.